Johnna, great to see you again. Welcome to Pop Alternative, but welcome back.
Good to see you again, too. This is crazy. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Awesome. I remember when this show was announced, and it's out there now on Prime Video. Isn't this crazy?
Yeah, like literally today. Literally today it's come out. It's crazy.
When you get to work in something like Motorheads that has so many like elements in one, right? There's the kind of racing component, the coming of age, the small town. There's all these elements. What's that like, reading all those elements in the script and then seeing it come to life when you go to production for something like this?
It was really wild. I mean, my character doesn't like race.
No.
Yet, but she like, I don't know. So when I would read the script, I was kind of just like envisioning these really cool action scenes, and I didn't even know if I was going to watch them in person because I didn't know what if she's at those races or whatever. So I kind of just read it and I was like, this is cool, and I don't know much about cars, but maybe I'll learn as this goes on. And then getting out there and seeing it and watching cars do crazy things right in front of my eyes, because all the stunts are completely practical with like, you know, stunt drivers. And so we got to watch, I think it's episode 6, the dirt bikes and the quads. It was wild. I was just like, I can't believe I'm on this show that has so many cars and so many tricks that
Absolutely.
they're doing.
No, it's so funny. It's like, you know, it's out now, but it's like, your character, oh my God, it's the mayor's daughter. You know what I mean? Like,
mayor's daughter.
There's a question there. Where is, like, how much do you know when you're kind of auditioning or getting the sides for this? Like, do you know that you're gonna have a lot of scenes with Melissa? Do you know that you're like I said, like, do you know the name of the character? Like, how much do you know when you audition for this?
For this one, I knew like the basics. I knew like some of what 1 and 2 was about, because my audition scene was from episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I was the mayor's daughter because we talk about it, and so I got some context from that. And I think, I'm not sure how much I read at first or how much I was sent, but I could tell that the relationship and the dynamic between me and Caitlin was probably going to be the ongoing arc for me this season. So I sort of anticipated that. Definitely one of the, you know, more important scenes, I would say, for the audition was like with her. So I assumed that would be a thing.
I believe one of the first scenes we meet your character, like one of the first, I think it was episode 1 or 2, is like the house party. Right? I think that's one of the scenes. So I kind of wanted to know, because I can imagine, I can imagine that was kind of, those potentially could have been long shoot days, because you have to set up the whole party and everything. There's everyone around. And I'm wondering, because, you know, on camera, you know, like on screen, we see that as like a 2-3 minute scene, right? Where you're telling Caitlin like, oh, he's bad news and everything. And then it cuts to another scene, right? But like that scene or sequence might have taken like 2 or 3 days to film. I don't know. It would have been longer than what we see. When that happens, do those scenes feel like their own mini movies, or do they feel like part of the overall project, so to speak?
I'm laughing because like those scenes, we were obviously on night shoots because it was night at the party, and so we were all a bit delirious. And
were they long though? Were they long scenes?
Yeah, they were long shoot days. I'm pretty sure we were there for like 3 days.
Okay, so I'm not crazy, because I feel like I looked at that whole sequence and I'm like, this was probably its own thing, like the party.
Yeah, and all those people, like all the high schoolers, like everyone. Yeah, it definitely felt, that one felt movie-ish, like movie-esque. But the house that we were filming at had a movie theater like in it, and so we like waited, and there was like a storm. It was actually crazy, but we ended up watching a movie in there and then going out and filming. So we were all kind of like just delirious. It's a miracle that it turned out like perfectly, because it ended up so good. But yeah, we were all just like cracking up the whole night.
I find it really interesting with TV shows and movies that have sports involved in it somehow. Like this one has racing and everything, and cars and motorcycles. And I find it really interesting because I feel like there's a little bit of like a ping pong match sometimes of like how something reads or what something is. Like, is Motorheads, you know, a coming of age drama that has racing in it? Or is it, you know, a racing series that has, you know, coming of age drama and everything? What was that like, reading those elements? And were there some scripts, like some episodes where it felt more like a racing show versus some that felt more like a drama? Like, what was that ping pong match like, reading the scripts? Because it's interesting to think about, right? If you think about it.
Yeah, there's like a million plots kind of happening at once, and they all intertwine, so it doesn't feel, not connected. It just, they're all happening at once. And when Drake and I used to laugh, Drake Rodger, who plays Ray, we used to laugh that we were in like 2 different shows, because my character is completely residing in the coming of age, the drama of it, and his character is very in the racing. And we never had any scenes together, but we would just be like, what show are you in? Oh yeah, you're in.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, so it
because
kind of,
he's really involved. Ray is really involved with like the racing.
the racing and the mystery too. He's like, and so it's just all of that, and then my character is sort of just going through a lot of teen stuff, and it just felt like, as a lot of shows do, I imagine when you're filming, there's so many plot lines, and whichever one that you are maybe more invested in as your character, that's kind of your through line throughout it. But there are some episodes that feel more like they're about the cars. And then the street racing one comes to mind, that's all about getting ready to go to the thing. And I don't know.
Well, it's a really good segue to my next question when you brought up the fact that your characters evolve with all like the drama and the relationships and like the school and everything. It's interesting because like this show did, I think, a very good job of showing a lot of characters that are on different kind of points of their life and that are kind of like going through the motions, so to speak, and taking it day by day and figuring things out and finding themselves and doing soul searching. And there are moments where like your character is doing that, Melissa with Caitlin, and even like Nicolas Cantu plays Marcel, like everyone's figuring things out. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, from like an acting perspective, is it more fun or more challenging playing like lost characters or like characters figuring things out? Because from the viewer perspective, they don't know they're lost. So I'm wondering if what do you think about that, so to speak? Because it's interesting to think about.
It's definitely more fun, I think, to play someone figuring something out. I think everyone, honestly, every character you ever play probably is figuring something out. So in that sense, it's kind of just part of the job, is what don't I know? What am I learning? What do I already know? Like what am I secure in? Mm-hmm. What am I insecure about? All that kind of stuff. That is kind of how I approach most characters. But yeah, for her, I mean, she definitely is not in a place where she knows exactly who she is and where she's going. And so it was challenging, but it was fun. And I've just kept it through line, sort of the arc of it, and kind of when things would sort of just kind of bother her, and then when they started to really like weigh on her, and then when they started to, she has to face them, otherwise she's not feeling grounded in this world or anything. So yeah, I don't know. It is really fun to play a lost character, and I think it's even more fun when your co-star is kind of this really confident, knows what she's about, knows her values, knows who she is, and there's just a real opposites going on in that sense. And Kiara is definitely kind of a mask wearer, she's definitely people pleasing a little bit, and it was fun to find those moments where she actually can't, because Caitlin sees through it.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because I really like her character, and you did a really good job with this character, by the way. And it made me think, like, I feel like this character doesn't know what she wants a little bit too. She definitely, like, I feel like there's a bit of a ping pong match with the way she is with Caitlin. Like, I think she at some point knows what she wants, but she's maybe like keeping it in because it can maybe be bigger consequences. Like, that's a tough one. And that's like, that must be hard to do sometimes, right? Like bottling it in, so to speak.
Yeah, well, she has her mom who expects one thing from her. She has her boyfriend who expects something else from her. She has like her status at the school that she doesn't want to lose because it's kind of her security blanket. And she has this part that she plays really well. She has multiple parts that she plays really well, and doesn't really have to dig too deep into why she's feeling a certain way until she meets Caitlin, who is like, I see through all of that.
Yes. And I want to ask you this, actually, because I'm sure when like the episodes are dropping now, so people are going to buzz about the whole, was it ever kind of brought up or alluded to that there was kind of like that your character was like maybe interested in Caitlin, or was that something like, was that like part of the character breakdown a little bit? Because I feel like that was done really well, where it's like, there were some moments where I was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe she's just being friendly. No, she likes her. But it took a while at times.
It's a slow burn, that one for sure. And I think part of that was just to also serve the show on a greater level, as to being like, it's not this sad and upsetting thing that this person's going through, and, you know, trying to keep it at a level where it's still lighthearted, but also real and grounded.
Yep.
But no, that was always in it. That was always in it. And that's part of the reason I loved the character, was because in a show like this, having that representation, I think, is absolutely stellar. And honestly, you can't overvalue it.
It's for sure. Like, because I have to tell you, it was kind of something I was thinking about until Miles' character goes to Michael Cimino and says, "Can you get your lesbian girlfriend, away from my girlfriend. Your lesbian sister away from my girlfriend." Before that, it was this kind of like push and pull of like, I'm not sure. So I'm glad you agree that it's a slow burn. Something I thought about that was, I really loved the show and I had a great time with it. And the thing I loved about it is, you know, I love when objects and settings become characters in a show. And I feel like that happens a lot here. Now, obviously their father's car, that's a given. That's like its own character. That's a big part of the show. I will go a bit step further and say that I think this town is a character, because it's like this small town with these like big problems and like a lot of different kind of like body shops and restaurants where like everything's kind of coming to life, and like a lot of people are kind of getting out of their shells and comfort zones, and some people are hiding things in. Do you agree with me on that a little bit? Like the town, I feel like, is its own character.
The town is absolutely, that's totally accurate. And my mom grew up in a really small town in Pennsylvania. And so I used to go there every summer. And I remember even reading the script when it was like, oh, small town in Pennsylvania. I was like, I've been here. Like, I know this place. And when you go, it is just like this atmosphere. There's just this atmosphere of either, whatever that place is interested in. So for instance, Ironwood with cars, like that's a huge culture over there too. And it's like, like it just has an energy to it, especially this kind of, I don't know, like passion behind it. I think especially for people that didn't grow up or live in a city like Kiara didn't. And it's just this kind of, it always feels like you're under a little bit of pressure, because there's not just like somewhere to go. Like you're here in this town, everybody knows you, and it's like small, but that can be nice too.
I feel like a lot of TV shows and movies, they want to be their own thing. Motorheads is Motorheads, but it's like I couldn't help but kind of pull kind of inspiration or feels from like past shows or TV shows or movies that I've watched, right? And one of them that, you know, I feel like it was the small town and everything, was I got a little bit of like a One Tree Hill kind of feel from this show a little bit. And I'm wondering if like, were you ever like reading the show, like the scripts for the show, and being like, oh, this reminds me of this or that? Because obviously people can also go and say like, oh, like Fast and Furious vibes because of the racing, you know what I mean, and everything, and other YA shows. But it's like, for me, it's like, and it's a big compliment because One Tree Hill is one of my favorite shows, and I know Motorheads is Motorheads, but it's like I got some comparisons there, and I feel like there's moments where like that are very similar. I think that's a great thing in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our creative team, actually, there's a bit of crossover with One Tree Hill. So that is a very astute observation. But also, someone mentioned early on about Friday Night Lights kind of being an energy. And that I totally see. Also, like all the handheld, even just the way it's shot is very Friday Night, like the handheld, and it is its own thing, which is great. But yeah, I think it's good to also think about those other things that were so fun and engaging, and you know, you can really dive into the small town dynamics because everyone knows everyone, and there's all this like history there, and that's like why those shows are so interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I find it interesting because we talked about the fact that it's like, you know, like small town, but this show on Prime Video like was very big scale in terms of the feel of it. The production is incredible and everything. When you get to work on past projects like Wednesday on Netflix, do you feel like that prepares you to kind of enter these massive kind of big worlds? Because two different worlds, but it's kind of like you're going from like a TV show that had this big kind of like fantasy world to another show that has this big kind of like competitive kind of nature to it. So it feels big scale. Do you think about that? Or do you feel like your time on Wednesday like prepared you for Motorheads a little bit?
I was so lucky that my first big job was Wednesday because I think it definitely prepared me for everything. And even just walking into the sets on Wednesday too and being like, oh my God, and now I have to just be in front of a camera and like say something. So that definitely prepared me. They like totally different feels because the fantasy, also we were in Romania, so like that was a very different atmosphere. But I remember walking into the gym in Motorheads and the decked out school gym for the dance in episode 8, and it reminded me so much of walking into the school dance for the Raven in Wednesday. And but I was glad I had that prep, because you walk in there and you are kind of struck with this reality that you're on this thing that people are putting so much money behind. And our set decks were incredible. Like there were so many details in that dance that you won't even see, but like if we walked around the set, we'd find all sorts of insanely cool things.
I remember they used the Dua Lipa song. I think "Let's Get Physical" in that dance. I think
in Wednesday and Raven.
In Raven, yeah. And I listen to that song all the time. It reminds me of Wednesday. And then Motorhead starts with "Fall Out Boy," and it can't get any cooler than that.
Thank you. That's exactly
one of my favorite bands of all time.
I love Fall Out Boy, and when I started the show, like the first time I watched it, I was like, that's crazy that they're starting out with Fall Out Boy. It was awesome. And in the dance, they start with Troye Sivan too. So they have really great music on this show.
When they played "This Ain't a Scene, It's an Arm Race" by Fall Out Boy in that scene, I was actually like this. Like if you saw me watching it in my living room, I was like this. And I was like really into it. I did the same thing. My sister was like, yeah, she was like, "Is that Patrick?" I was like, "It is." Oh, I love music so much. I love all those bands, like early 2000s, like Paramore. I talked to Ashley Green recently about like the Power, because like they use Decode and like Twilight and stuff, right? So it's like,
Twilight soundtrack is amazing.
There's a lot of bands that like. I feel like there's a lot of bands though from that era, like Fall Out Boy is a band like I've listened to forever. Like I never stopped listening to that band. But Paramore is actually a band where like I'm more into them now than I was in high school. Like more, everyone was into Paramore, and I knew some songs here and there, like "Misery Business" and "Crush, Crush, Crush" and everything. But like I got really into them like afterwards.
You know, it's really interesting that you say that too, because something that really sticks out to me about small towns is a lot of the young people's taste comes from their parents or the generation above them. And so I grew up like listening to all my parents' music, and I was really into like 70s rock and the Beatles and everything like that. And so one of my big inspirations was for Kiara was like nostalgia and what was around, you know, when her parents were around, what were they listening to? Because that's probably what she was listening to as well. Because we're not in a city, we don't have, you know, culture and new things surrounding us all the time. And the people you talk to, they all listen to the same music. So that was a big part of making her too.
I love music, and I love how it's like a thing now where like actors, because I'm in the film, I'm doing film production now, right? So you hear all the time that actors prepare with like playlists. Like I love the music incorporation. I'm gonna go listen to Fall Out Boy right after this interview. I'm gonna listen to that song. And I can't wait for people to watch Motorheads. It's available now on Prime Video, so they can check out all the episodes. Johnna, so great chatting with you again. Thank you so much for your time.
It's so good to see you. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, anytime. Your Instagram account is where people can keep up to date with everything, right?
Probably there, yeah.
Is it just your name?
J. Dias-Watson, yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. Previous episodes. Until next time, this is Johnna Dias-Watson and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.